A median income, 45-year-old, should have a 401k pension of about $320,000. The median real balance for this age group hovers around $60,000, meaning it is more than 80% short of what they need. The gap has widened year by year. Here is how much you should save for each age group, why so few people achieve those goals, and what you can do even if you are a few years behind, said the country's largest retirement plan manager. Let's look at the benchmarks, because the numbers circulating online may have misled you. Fidelity Investments publishes the most cited savings targets in the retirement planning industry and manages more than 45 million retirement accounts with real weight. Fidelity won't give you a fixed dollar number. Instead, it sets everything to a multiple of the annual salary, starting with one wage multiplied by 30, doubling to two wages multiplied by 35, then three wages multiplied by 40, and then four wages multiplied by 45. Then it accelerated sharply to 67 times, 6 times 50 times, 7 times 55 times, 8 times 60 times, and finally 10 times your salary. Converting those multiples into real dollars would make things clearer based on about $80,000, closely related to the median household income in the United States, reported by the Census Bureau in 2023. 45-year-olds should be $320,000. By age 55, the target will be $560,000. For 67-year-olds, Fidelity's target is $800,000. Their model assumes that you start saving at age 25, but you always save 15% of your total income, including any employer matching income, and that your goal is to replace 45% of your pre-retirement income with personal savings, with the rest handled by Social Security and other sources. These assumptions are notable because they reveal that these benchmarks are not arbitrary shame numbers drawn out of thin air. They are the output of specific models. If you start late, earn more, earn less, or imagine a different way to retire, your personal goals will change accordingly. However, as a general baseline, these are still the most frequently cited guidelines in the industry. Now, in reality, it doesn't look like guidelines at all. Vanguard, as How America Saves 2024 report, based on data at the end of 2023, sets the median 401k balance for participants aged 45 to 54 at just $60,763. Among participants 55 to 64, the figure was as high as $87,571, while for participants 65 and older, it barely climbed to $88,488. That is where the clumsy distinction in most articles begins to really matter, because it shapes how you judge your position. Financial headlines like to throw out average 401k balances, reporting $168,000 or $244,000 for people in their 50s and 60s, based on legitimate Pioneer data. But the average was pulled up by outliers, completely distorting the situation. Imagine 9 people each holding $50,000 and one sitting next to them holding $5 million. The average income for this group is $545,000. Although the median earns only $50,000, the median reflects what a typical person actually holds. The Fed's data had a bigger impact. Their 2022 Consumer Finance Survey, released in October 2023, found that the median retirement account balance for all households was $86,900, compared with an average of $334,000. The difference is almost 4 to 1. Anyone who measures himself against the average and draws comfort or despair from it is likely to be working with distorted numbers all the time. Some history helps explain how we got here, because 401k was never meant to carry today's load. Section 401k of the Internal Revenue Code, derived from the 1978 tax code, took effect in 1980 as a supplementary savings vehicle rather than a primary retirement plan for anyone. Ted Benner was widely considered the father of the 401k after he implemented one of Johnson's earliest plans in 1981. Over the years, He told multiple media outlets that he would blow up the entire system and restart it with something completely different. Even architects thought it was broken. Events in the 1980s and 1990s tell the rest of the story. Employers have abandoned the company's traditional fixed income pension, which takes investment risks in favor of 401k plans, placing all risks on individual workers. This creates a system in which your retirement protection depends entirely on your ability to save, invest wisely, and avoid costly mistakes. For 30 to 40 years, the data confirm that most people stumble on at least one of these issues. This leads to these errors, which accurately explain why the gap between benchmarks and reality is so large. Cashing out when changing employers is the first and most damaging practice. According to the Employee Benefit Research Institute, about 40% of transferred employees liquidate 401k rather than renew their contracts, even higher among younger employees. Once you get cash, pay taxes, and pay a 10% early withdrawal penalty. For anyone under the age of 59 and a half, you ignite years of compound growth in a deal. One decision can wipe out a whole decade of savings. Setting a one-time contribution rate and forgetting is the second biggest mistake. According to Vanguard, most participants who automatically registered at 3% stopped registering at that precise rate for years. Even as their wages rose, 0.3% means a doorway, not a destination. Fidelity's recommended rate is 15%, including employer matching, and the current average confirms the gap, with employees contributing about 9.4%, employees contributing about 4.5%, and combined rates of about 13.9%. That figure, taken together, has been raised by disciplined depositors at the top, meaning many participants are well below it. Investment was too conservative or premature, leading to a third decline. Vanguard found that about 9% of participants in their 20s held portfolios with absolute zero equity exposure, no stocks at all, and jobs for decades to come. In 30 or 40 years, that level of caution will come at a huge cost. Borrowing from your 401k account can make the list more complete. At the end of 2023, about 13% of Pioneer participants held outstanding 401k loans, which meant that there was no investment funds during the loan term. Leaving an employer before paying can lead to taxes and fines, and cautious moves can turn into costly ones. Here is what I really need 45, 50, 55 or 60-year-olds to hear. And if they look at these benchmarks, time is running out. Recent legislation specifically targets workers in that position. The Securities 2.0 Act was signed into law on the 29th of December 2022, introducing a number of provisions aimed at helping late-stage depositors speed up their savings. In 2025, workers 50 and older can pay an additional $7,500 a year, exceeding the standard ceiling of $23,500, bringing the total employee contribution to $31,000. This is a better place for specific groups, because starting in 2025, workers ages 60 to 63 will be eligible for a catch-up contribution ceiling of $11,250, pushing their total employee contribution ceiling to $34,750 a year. This window opens in most people's highest earning years, and active use can be injected in ways that no other strategy can match. Another Security 2.0 provision, effective in 2024, allows employers to make matching contributions related to an employee as eligible. Student loan payments, even if the person does not directly invest funds in a 401k plan. The change affects both workers still saddled with debt and families considering how the next generation interacts with retirement. None of these fixes address the deeper access problems inherent in the system itself. While about 73% of private sector workers are eligible for employer retirement plans, only 56% actually participate. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the breakdown by income shows a more pronounced advantage, with only 53% of minimum wage workers reaching a quarter and about 43% of part-time workers reaching a quarter. Small businesses with fewer than 50 employees offer about 53% of retirement plans, while businesses with 500 or more employees offer about 90%. Racial and gender disparities exacerbate these access gaps. According to the Federal Reserve's Consumer Finance Survey, in 2022, the median retirement balance of Black families is between $29,000 and $35,000. That of Hispanic families is between $31,000 and $38,000. And that of white families is $80,000 or more. The more complete version of what most people say is wrong is that many people were never given a fair chance to correct their mistakes in the first place. Compound growth math is cruel, but instructive for those who do have a chance and want to close the gap. Starting at age 25, $500 a month, with an average annual return of 7%, earns about $1.2 million by age 65. When you start giving the same $500 a month at age 35, the final number will fall to about $567,000. Less than half the result, even though the donation is only a decade short. Saving early in just a decade can more than double your final savings. Even from age 50, low-cost index funds with the highest levels of investment catch-up can establish a real buffer. In an annual letter to Berkshire Hathaway shareholders in 2013, Warren Buffett bluntly argued that by investing regularly in index funds, an unwitting investor could actually outperform most investment professionals. He backed that argument by betting in 2007 on the hedge fund firm Prot CDG Partners. In 2017, when the bet ended, a simple S&P 500 index fund beat a portfolio of actively managed hedge funds for a full decade. Another set of data is worth supporting all this. Fidelity reported that as of the third quarter of 2023, about 422,000 accounts broke through the $1 million threshold. The average duration of these millionaire accounts is about 26 years, and the average savings rate, including employer matching, is about 17.5%. Market timing and stock selection did not produce these results. Decades of consistency and above minimum contribution rates played a role. Let me summarize. Benchmarks like double pay times 30, quadruple pay times 45, and tenfold pay times 67 are road signs based on specific assumptions, not commandments carved into stone. Any good financial planner will remind you that your actual number depends on where you live, your health, your social security benefits, whether you have a pension, and the type of retirement you really want. This is still common in all cases. For too many families, the distance between where Americans should stand and where they actually find themselves is real, vast, and growing. The median balance illustrates an honest story. With a balance of about $61,000 for the 45 to 54-year-old group and about $88,000 for the 55 to 64-year-old group. If these numbers sound familiar, you're not an outlier. You're in the middle of a group, but normal and enough are never the same. 20 years ago was the ideal starting point, but now it is the second best. Maximize your employer fit, increase your contribution rate by at least 1% by the end of the year. And if you are over 50, look at the enhanced catch-up clause and stop comparing yourself to averages that don't reflect what typical people actually hold. If this breakdown changes your view of retirement savings, subscribe, because there is a lot to cover between what the financial industry tells you and what the actual numbers reveal.